Tom Clancy's The Division 2 is, despite all odds, still thriving. The game's second DLC releases in just a few days, an exciting roadmap has been laid out and development for the third game is underway. Whilst there's plenty of information on builds in The Division 2 here on YouTube, there's a scarcity of information covering basic game mechanics. This means that even veteran players often don't understand how to apply their builds in the most effective ways, and this somewhat exacerbates the skill gap in the game. One facet that isn't covered nearly enough is enemy weak points. Put it this way, would you rather dump 4 magazines randomly into an enemy over the course of 20 seconds, or put a single magazine in a more deliberate way and watch them fall? But Hutchler, obviously we know about weak points, they're easy and obvious, I hear you say. Or did you know that you can conditionally one-shot chungers of multiple factions and warhounds without needing to touch their armour using clever weak points? If the answer to that question is no, then this video is for you. In this video we'll cover every key common weak point belonging to a warhound and chunga enemy archetype in the Division 2, and how to consistently hit them to speed up your gameplay and level up your playstyle. We'll do this starting with the most well-known weak points before moving on to the more complex ones, but the video will be timestamped if you want to jump around. Without much further ado, let's get into it, and if you enjoyed the video please give it a like, comment and subscribe for more similar content. As mentioned in the intro, we're going to start off with the simple weak points. Firstly, let's tackle the broad range of heavy enemies, or as the community tends to refer to them, chungas. Each faction has a slightly different model and weak point for their chungas. Outcasts have hammer-wielding lunatics, Black Tusk and Hyenas have huge minigun-wielding bad boys, and True Sons have grenades. Firstly, Outcast. Outcast heavies are a very easy one because they have no weak points. To kill them, you just need to shred their armour away as quick as possible before gunning down to their health. Next, Hyenas. Hyenas have similar prognoses to Outcasts in terms of the method used, but they do have one weak point, a chain to their left-hand side. Shooting out this chain will force them to reload their weapon, giving you a window of one-way combat to gun them down. It's worth noting that some animations, such as explosions or armour plate breaking, will override this reload and they'll return to shooting. That said, there's no limit on how many times you can break their chain, so I'd recommend a rotation of chain, armour plating, until they're dead. Unfortunately, similar to Outcast, there's no quick or easy way to kill them beyond good old DPS. Onto our first proper weak point which accelerates the killing process, True Sons. True Sons chungas have a grenade launcher, and this means that they must also carry grenades. On their backpack, just above their bum, you'll find a red pack. Shooting this out will cause them to explode, dealing a small amount of damage but most importantly breaking their chest plate. This means you can shoot into their stomach and chest area to deal direct health damage and kill them extremely quickly. Finally for the chunga category, Black and White Tusk. These chungas are identical, with the small difference that White Tusk chungas have a proximity-based stinger hive linked to their backpack. Black and White Tusk chungas have 2 weak points. Their chain, which functions identically to the Outcast chain in that it forces a reload but will be cancelled by animations, and their backpack, which can be broken to prevent them healing and, in the case of White Tusk, stinging you. There are more features tied to these heavies, but that's for the later intermediate and advanced sections of this video. We've covered all chunga factions, so let's move on to warhounds. Warhounds fall into 3 key archetypes: minigun, grenadier, and sniper, which all do pretty much what they say on the tin. Whilst the warhound archetypes all look relatively similar, they have different weak points and their weak points have different effects. Let's take a look at what those are. First up, minigun. Above every leg, there's a red ball with an A, which is not to be confused with the popular energy drink. Shooting this red ball, which can be annoying due to the movement speed on these things, will cause the warhound to be briefly EMP'd, giving you a small window to gun it down. Next, grenadiers. Looking face to face, aim at the bum of the grenade dog. Opening fire, take careful notice of your crosshair. Once it's yellow, you're on the weak point. Shooting out this weak point will cause the grenade dog to be shocked, and whilst this seems lackluster, for whatever reason the dogs are programmed to undergo the same effects as EMP while shocked, meaning they'll take a seat and allow you to shoot them. Last up for our easy weak points section, we'll cover sniper dogs. These have a slightly situational weak point, as you can only attack it when they're imminently about to attack you. Upon preparing an attack, the sniper dog will grow a small red box from the area where the barrel joins the body. Shooting this weak point out will yield a similar result to the minigun dog in that the dog will be EMP'd temporarily, buying precious shooty time. So we've covered off the easy weak points. Let's revisit the same enemies we've just discussed, where applicable, to cover off slightly more advanced mechanics which will save even more time and make your life even easier. Firstly, the one I imagine everyone's been rushing to the comments section to tell me I missed: Warhounds. It's very well known in some communities, but worse known in others, that Warhounds are actually vulnerable to damage without you needing to destroy their armour plating at all. There are conditions to this, but I'll cover them off after we've discussed where the unarmoured points are. Firstly, all Warhounds are vulnerable to direct damage to their legs. It doesn't matter where you shoot on the leg, as long as you're not shooting too high, but it can be easier to shoot the higher portion as they have harder to miss, thick and juicy thighs up there. Next, sniper dogs specifically take damage if you shoot them in the bum. I have no idea which sadistic dev made this a reality, but if you see a sniper dog running away from you, shoot its bum and it'll drop. Finally, grenade dogs have a hinge between their body and their grenade launcher on their right hand side, assuming they're facing forwards. Shooting this will deal damage straight to their health, and this is a very useful point if the legs aren't directly visible. So that's where to shoot, but what are the conditions I mentioned earlier? There's one key condition here. There is significant damage reduction when shooting directly into the Warhound's legs, and as far as I'm aware, there are only 3 ways to get around this. Firstly, critical hits suffer no damage reduction whatsoever. As you can see from the footage, the difference between white and orange numbers is staggering. Thus, if you plan on shooting legs out with an automatic weapon, running a build focused towards critical hits is key. Secondly, Headhunter suffers no damage reduction, even when you don't crit. This means that if you want to one-shot a Warhound, you can. Just make sure you have Headhunter stacks and land your shot. Finally, there's no damage mitigation on the Sniper Dog's bum or the Grenade Dog's hinge, so if you can hit these, they're preferable. So that's Warhounds covered off. Next up, the Chungas. There's only one variation on the Chunga points we've already seen in this section, as other Chunga variations fall into advanced weak points. That variation is black and white tusk Chungas. As we previously mentioned, both of these Chungas have a backpack. What's underneath the backpack though? The answer to that question is twofold. Under the bottom half of the backpack is armour, so shooting there won't achieve much out of the ordinary. But the important part is the top half, which is totally unarmoured. Shooting this half will completely negate any need to destroy armour plates and instead deal direct health damage. There's one thing to keep in mind though, which is that the Chunga will be moving around and it can be tricky to line these shots up. Nevertheless, it's an incredibly useful thing to know. So that's us done for easy and intermediate weak points. Let's move on to the advanced. Firstly, some words to preface this section. These are not necessarily easy or consistent weak points, but instead are just points I wanted to share as it's very uncommon to come across someone who knows of their existence. I'm going to start with the easiest, then move on to the remainders which are pretty much blind luck. It's also important to note that you won't be able to do a huge amount to these weak points, with one exception, without some form of Headhunter or very high damage per shot build. They're inconsistent enough that if you don't one-shot, you'll struggle to keep hitting the same point. First off, there's a way to shoot through any armor plate in the game. This is very common in Manning Zoo legendary speedruns, but works pretty much anywhere. The mechanic behind this is that a small gap exists between the character model of a Chunga and its armor plating. So can you guess what we're going to do? You got it, we're going to get super close to the target and stick our barrel into this gap. Provided we can get the correct barrel placement, our gun will technically be firing with the armor plate behind it, and so it will deal direct health damage. This strategy is actually surprisingly consistent once you've got the right idea of weapon placement, but it will take a bit of practice to learn. There are a few places it won't work, but largely it does. Next, we're tweaking our True Sons weak point strategy. We talked about the red pack on their back, and that's also going to be key here, but not in the way you might expect. When these guys' armor plates were created, a small gap was missed on either side of the red pack, which gives a direct line of sight into the Chunga's body. With the correct, roughly 45-degree angle from the target, and a shot aimed at the upper portion of the join between the red pack and the armor itself, you can one-shot these guys without any need for armor or weak point breaking. Cool, right? Finally, we're revisiting our friends the black and white tusk Chungas. These guys have two similar spots to the True Sons, where armor pieces join and there's no armor. The two spots are as follows, in order of consistency hitting them. Firstly, looking at a Chunga from a 90-degree angle, you can shoot into the join between their backpack and their back. in the upper portion to deal direct health damage. This is relatively replicable, but does suffer from the fact that you need very specific positioning. Secondly, as a Chunga moves towards you, you can shoot into the join between their neck and their helmet. In legendary speedruns, this is comically called the G-spot, because whilst it does one-shot them, it sacrifices headhunter stacks in the process and typically causes a wipe. So that about summarises our whistle-stop tour of Weakpoints in The Division 2. It's a lot of information to take in, and I am aware that I've missed off the standard enemy archetypes as well as the New York factions, but hopefully it was useful. If you have any questions or suggestions for what you'd like me to cover next, stick it in the comments below. Until next time, thanks for watching.